Good morning, it's Chad C. from C Real Estate here in Richmond, Virginia. And a week ago, I talked about tax implications when you sell your primary residence, the place you call home, defined as a place you've lived in 2 of the last 5 years. And some of you perhaps were just thrilled to hear that upon selling your primary residence that you'd have no tax liability. In fact, I've seen the look on people's faces when I've explained to them how much money they'd have left over when we sell their home and that they wouldn't have to pay taxes on that, and it's always fun to watch. Today I want to talk about tax responsibility when you sell a home that is not your primary residence. That might be a house that you inherited. It might be a house that you have used as a rental property for some time, and obviously there can be tax liabilities when you sell properties like that. So let's start with a rental home. Perhaps you bought it to be a rental house. You've owned it for a number of years, you've enjoyed rental income, and it's time to part company with that house. Sometimes when people sell a property like that, they want the cash. They have plans for the cash. We sold one not long ago where the people had renovation plans at their primary residence. They wanted to sell their rental house, use the money to do that, and that can be a good way to gather those funds. Do know that when you sell that rental house, you'll have to pay capital gains tax, and the percentage that you have to pay might be lower than you expect. It's subject to change, so you want to see the calendar year that you sell it in, find out what the capital gains tax is, and just be at peace with the idea that a portion of these proceeds are going to have to go to pay my capital gains tax. Lots of times people are perfectly fine with that because they've got big plans for the rest of the money and it works out perfectly. Sometimes people would rather take the proceeds from the sale of that rental house and invest it in another piece of real estate. And we've done a video in the past about the idea of a 1031 exchange, a tax-free exchange, people call it, where you can sell one piece of residential real estate and reinvest those monies in a property of equal or greater value, or maybe even more than one property, and avoid paying taxes. You have to follow the rules established by the IRS. You have to identify that property within 45 days. You have to close on it within 6 months. And the monies have to be handled by an intermediary, oftentimes an attorney or a company set up to be just that, an intermediary, a person who handles the funds from the sale of the first house and will disperse those funds when you buy your next property or properties. And the key is you never touch it. If it lands in your bank account, you're going to be subject to paying the taxes that you're trying to avoid. So that's one way to look at the capital gain, or to avoid the capital gains. And another thing to think about is we've often sold houses for people who have inherited real estate. And if you inherit a piece of real estate, you put it on the market and sell it, there'll probably be no tax on the money that you make. Now, there are limitations. That goes up to a certain amount, and you'll want to check with your CPA, check the current laws to see what that cap is. But most people, when we sell their houses that they've inherited, they don't have to pay any taxes on the money they make from it. Now, if you inherit the house, let's say in the year of 2000, and you have rented it out or enjoyed it in some other way for 23 years, now it's 2023 and you want to sell it, you will likely have to pay some taxes on the money that you make, but it'll be calculated on how much more it's worth now in 2023 than it was in the year 2000 when you inherited it. This year of 2000 price is called the basis, and the value's probably gone up from there to 2023. And to calculate taxes, your CPA will look at what it was worth when you inherited it, what it's worth now, perhaps calculate what you've spent on it to improve it, and come up with a dollar amount that you'll be taxed on when you go to sell that. Excuse me. So those are just a few little thoughts on taxes when you sell a house that is not your primary residence. There will be some tax liability, and you'll want to have an idea of what you're getting into before you sell a piece of real estate that matches that description. So a little bit on that today. I hope you have a fantastic week.